Hello, my name's Tom Mayers. I'm president of the Longboat Key Historical Society, and we've done a series of videos that we call Longboat Key Reflections. And we're lucky to have Kent Chetlain here today. And Kent has been a historian in this area for at least, the last 50 years?
Yeah.
And has various interests in different areas of history, but he's covered the history of Anna Maria, Longboat Key, Bradenton, and Sarasota, and he's just a real great resource for us to have, in that he's done a lot of research and a lot of interviews with people over the years, and we're fortunate to have Kent here sharing with us some of his background. So he's going to tell you some of his own history here, and then we'll go to the material that he's brought and go over that. So this is Kent Chetlain, and I'm Tom Mayers with the Longboat Key Historical Society. I hope you enjoy this.
Thank you, Tom. While I've been in Florida here since 1949, I was originally a native of Illinois. I was born in the West Suburban Hospital at Oak Park, Illinois, and Oak Park is probably made famous by the fact that it's the birthplace of Ernest Hemingway, and also it was the town that Frank Lloyd Wright, the famous architect, and scandalized when he ran off with the wealthiest man's wife to Europe, and they didn't get married. But anyway, I came to Florida to finish my last 2 years at the University of Miami in 1949, graduated in 51, went to work for the Sanford Herald as a reporter, desk man, and a sports editor. Then I went from there to sports editor of the Orlando Star, which was owned by the Orlando Sentinel, and I decided I had to pay bills, so I went to work for Tropicana, and they were merchandising the little cartons of orange juice in vending machines. And we went into the schools and became a great rager for a while, and then ultimately I wound up in Bradenton when they turned that all over to the vendors and dairies. I came to this area in 1957, and I was witness to some of the early historic moments. The day they opened the first Cortez, the current Cortez Bridge, was a Sunday in March of '57, and I and my family were driving out to the beach for Sunday at the beach pavilion up there in Holmes Beach. And we drove across the old bridge, and I liked to not think that we could make it. We turned over to our right, and we saw the procession of elephants with the girls on top going down to the opening. They had a ribbon cutting down there on the Bradenton Beach side where the toll booth was, and we passed through there going to the beach, and we saw the elephants approaching. And then after we got done at the beach that evening, we headed back and we went over the new bridge. So we went over the old bridge and the new bridge on our first venture here, and that was in 1957. And they surely need another bridge coming over here. And when I was a county commissioner, I suggested building a bridge from Cortez Road across to Coquina Beach, and thereby eliminating a terrible traffic backup that they have at the junction of Cortez Road and Gulf Drive. I worked for the Bradenton Herald. I worked for the Islander. I worked for a time at the Tampa Tribune and Florida Trend Magazine. So I've had a wide variety of jobs, and I always was interested in the area that I was working in, wherever it was, and I always read up as much as I could of the history of that. So I have followed, and then for many years, in fact, almost the last 28 years, I wrote a real estate column for the Longboat Observer, and so that opened another window of my career.
Well, you always included some history, which was nice, in your column on
Yes.
real estate, and that was a really nice feature, and I enjoyed looking at your, different
Sure.
observations.
Well, I would have certain times when there were very few real estate transactions to report. In order to pad it out, I dug down in my archives and so forth, and came up with some historical vignettes that I thought would be appealing to people. I happened to be a copy boy at the Miami Herald my senior year at University of Miami, and became acquainted with an Associated Press writer by the name of Gene Plowden. And Gene went back to the days of the Sarasota Tribune, when he broke in the early 30s, coming to Sarasota and reporting for that paper before it was merged with the Herald. The Sarasota Herald, I think it was about 37 or something. And Gene was very interested in the Ringling Circus, and he became very good friends with the Ringling people. And after he retired, he wrote a book called Those Amazing Ringling Brothers, and it's out of print now, but I can assure you that it's one of the finest and most interesting and well-written books on the Ringlings.
Well, people ask me about the early days here and what it was like, and I told them that it was a lot of circus people and baseball players.
Yeah.
So we had some great baseball
Yeah.
players. The greatest in the country would come down here for the winter and
That's true.
and do some baseball training in this area, and then with Land's End here, when we had the business, there were always people, either baseball players
Yeah.
with really interesting talents,
Sure.
or people from the circus that would just walk on their hands all the way down the dock, or do a backflip. Just standing backflip. You would look at these great gymnasts, and they were all circus people.
I asked your mother, Fran Mayers, years ago about Guy Pascal, and she said, well, the first time I ever met him, he came into my house walking on his hands.
Well, they used to drink a lot in
Yeah.
those days. So, that was another thing they asked, is what they did in the old days. And I said, well, they swam and fished and drank
Yeah.
and had a good time. I think that's nice to think of them having a good time. And he was the first mayor of Longboat Key.
Yes, that's correct.
And he
was
had,
honorary
he had to
mayor.
fight with some people over that. I understand that they had some fist fights
Yeah.
to see whether we should become a town or not.
Yeah, that's true.
And you did a lot of audio tape recordings, because I know we had some at the museum. From just you
Yes.
interviewed my mother, and you interviewed some other people.
Yes.
Now, what happened? Do you have those, or what?
I think that if I one time gave them to Ralph Hunter so he can make copies. I said, go ahead and make
Right.
copies of these for the Historical Society, but I want to keep the original. And I think I have most of those originals. And I interviewed a number of people. Howard Ridyard, who was, I think he was a city commissioner for 20 or 30 years.
Right.
And there were other people that I interviewed, and
Well, we'd like to work with you, to get copies of those, so that anything that you have that we don't have,
Sure.
would be nice to get some copies.
I remember Interestingly, we have quite an association with prominent people throughout the country. For example, Ephigene Salzburger, whose father, Adolph Ochs, was the man that rejuvenated the New York Times. And she lived here, you know, in the winter towards her last years. And then we had Leonard Golderson of ABC, and they're just a myriad of people. I remember when I was sports editor of the Braden Herald, I had an assistant, and he had come to this area and gotten a job. I think it was either at the Far Horizons or it was at the Colony Club. And a lot of prominent people would come in for a long weekend of tennis and sleeping and drinking too. And one of the ones that he told me about was Clifton Daniel, who I think he had an executive position with the New York Times, and he was married to Margaret Truman. And he used to fly down on like a Thursday, and he'd take a cab and come out to the beach, and he would spend the entire time either playing or eating or drinking, and then on Sunday night, the cab would take him back to the airport for his flight back to New York.
Well, that's one of the charms of Longboat Key, is that you're really, you know, less than half an hour from a major airport, so that people could fly in here from all over the country. And within, you know, half an hour, 15 minutes, they'd be out on the beach and able to have a vacation, and then get right back on the plane and go back and, you know, just have a real short trip to the airport.
Yes, that's true. And you mentioned about the fact that this area was connected with baseball, because the Boston Red Sox trained for many years in Sarasota. And of course, in Braden, they've had a number of teams like the Cardinals and Phillies and the Red Sox, and
that's been one of your big interests over the years. I know you used to do a column on sports.
Yes, and it's been very rewarding. I got to know a lot of people like Ted Williams and so forth, and one of the things is a ritual with the Red Sox when they trained here. Even before World War II, was they came out to this restaurant that the Johnsons used to...
Yeah, Millie's.
Millie, yeah. And Millie apparently was quite a character, and she entertained a lot.
Well, Mother said that she was a Gibson girl, which I guess was like in Chicago or something like the Rockettes.
Yeah.
And that she was a heavy-set woman, but apparently she had a nice figure for a heavy-set woman.
Yeah.
And her husband was rather diminutive.
Yeah.
And so Mother said whenever there was a problem at the bar, Millie would be the one who threw the person out the front door.
Yeah. Yes, she was famous, and the Red Sox as a team would come out to their restaurant at least once or twice during the spring training each spring, and they would have a big fish dinner. And of course, Millie entertained them, singing songs and other things. And